Right, and first we just have linear equations. Give me 1 second, I didn't get my glasses, so I can't really see the screen. Oh, and I don't have them, that's not good. Okay. All right, so we're looking at your practice final or your review for the final exam in your software. And first we just have a linear equation. So you remember with linear equations that you isolate the variable. Right, so you have x on both sides. You would want to notice that. You want to get rid of one of those terms. So I'm going to subtract 4x. And that gives you 3x minus 1 equals 6. And now you have a standard two-step equation. You are going to add the 1 and divide by 3. So x equals 7/3 is our answer there. So that is a linear equation. Remember, you're going to have two kinds of equations. You're going to have the ones with the exponent of 1 and the ones with the exponent of 2. And those others you have to factor or use the quadratic formula or square root method. Right. I do want us to practice a little bit on clearing the fraction because that is an important skill you need. So you can do it on equations, either kind of equation. If you have any fraction there, you would want to clear it out. So your common denominator is a 9. You're going to multiply across by 9. Every term, whether there's a fraction or not. That's what makes it okay to do. This one will cancel. So you have x plus 18 equals negative 9. And now it's just a linear equation. Nice one. Subtract your 18 from both sides. So we're going to get x equals negative 27. All right, our next one just has more fractions, and we can do that too, just to get a little extra practice of clearing the fraction. Half plus 1/2 times x minus 1 equals 1/8. So first find your LCD. Your LCD is 8. You're going to multiply all the way across by it. And you would do that first. You would not want to distribute with that fraction. And you only multiply the 8 at the front there. That will carry into the parentheses. All right, now we're going to clean up. And so you're going to divide 2 into 8 will go 4 times. 4 times 1 is 4. This one, 2, will go into 8 4 times. And it is a positive 4. That is going to distribute. So we have a 4x minus 4. Over here, the 8's cancel. So you get 1. And then your 4 and your negative 4 are going to wipe out. So you have 4x equals 1. Divide by 4, and you get x equals 1/4. It is okay to get a fraction for an answer. You would need to reduce if it will. And it probably would not want a decimal, so just do a fraction. All right, we have one more in this section. Let's have a look at it. It looks like a normal equation, but because I see these extra answers, I think it might be one where you get a different kind of solution. Whoops. Boy, it's hard to write those 6's and b's together, huh? All right, so looks normal, which would mean distribute. So 2b plus 6 plus 6b, And the other side, there's nothing to do. That's an 8b, and that one is a 6. Okay. On the left-hand side, put your like terms together. 2b plus 6b is 8b plus 6, and 8b plus 6. Right? As you get a little more experienced, you realize those are exactly the same. That is called the identity, and everything is going to make that true. Any number that you put into b will make it true because the sides are the same. So it's going to be this choice down here where b is a real number. If you don't see that right away, what your next step would be get rid of a variable term. And as soon as you do, your variable cancels. And so at that point, what you care about is this true or false? Once your variable's gone. If it's true, it's all real numbers. If it's false, it's no solution. So these are your special kinds of equations. So this one is true, and it will be all real numbers. And they have just put it in set builder notation in the software. It still says b is a real number. Right, then we move to the inequalities. Now these are different, and you have a clue that it's different than those very last ones you were working on because it has a little number line. It doesn't have two variables in it. It only has one, so it's not on the rectangular coordinate system. All right, so for inequalities, I would always isolate on the left-hand side the variable. So let's go ahead and see what we have. And the special rule on these that you have to watch is if you divide by a negative, your inequality symbol flips over. Sorry, I got that a little bit spread out there. All right, so we go ahead, clean up. So we have a negative 20x minus 16, parentheses comes off. And on this side, we'll distribute that negative 5. So negative 5x plus 15 minus 2x. All right, and on the left, we have negative 20x. And these will give you like signs, add and keep the sign. Negative 24 is greater than. This will be a negative 7x. You put those like terms together. Right, and now we will want to get rid of an x term. We should get rid of the 7x and keep the x on the left. It makes graphing easier. So we'll add the 7x. This gives us a negative 13x minus 24 is greater than 15. So now we have a two-step problem. Add your 24. And we have negative 13x is greater than 39. Right. This next step is the step to watch out for. If you divide by a negative, your inequality symbol flips over. So this one is going to flip because we have to divide by the sign of the coefficient. So we're going to get x is less than a negative 3. All right. Now, we've solved. They want us to draw a graph and show the interval notation. So we want x is less than negative 3. There is no equals underneath, so that is an open circle. We'll put it on negative 3. And if x is smaller, then we're going to go to the left of that. So make sure you start on it and go all the way till you get an arrow. Your interval notation is coming from negative infinity, and it stops at negative 3. So negative infinity has to go first. You go left to right. Negative 3, it has an open circle, which is the same as a parentheses. And that would be our answer. All right, here is one more inequality. and it has fractions, so we should clear those fractions out. Your common denominator will be an 18, so we're going to multiply by 18 all the way across. All right, so 2 will go into 18 9 times, so we have 9 times 9 is 81, plus 18a is less than, this side your 18s cancel. All right, now you're going to subtract your 81 from both sides. And we have 18a is less than, let's see, 22 minus 81. So that's a negative 59. And then we're going to divide by 18 to isolate our variable. This one will not flip because your coefficient you're dividing by is positive. You don't care if it's positive or negative on the other side. So we have a is less than, I don't know if this divides or not. So negative 59 divided by 18. And it does not. So we will just leave it there in fraction form. Just like that. And let's see. They ask us to solve the following inequality and enter your answer in interval notation. Right? And so if you need a little graph to help you, you can draw it, but it doesn't have to go in the answer. Right, we can just show this 1 point, negative 59 over 18. A is smaller than that, so it's going to be to the left, and there is no equals underneath. So that is a parentheses or an open circle. Then your interval notation, it comes from negative infinity up to that point, negative 59 over 18. Good. All right, let's see. We have one more inequality here. So we'll try it. Number 7. Negative 4 times negative 5 plus 2x is less than or equal to 10 plus 10x. All right, so you have to clean up on the left-hand side, distribute, so you get a 20 minus 8x, parentheses comes off, right? And then you have to get rid of one of your x terms. I'm going to get rid of the 10x so that the x stays on the left. That makes it easier to graph and get your interval notation. All right, so this one is gone, so we have 20 minus 18x is less than or equal to 10. Right, get rid of your 20. So we have negative 18x is less than or equal to negative 10. And you're going to divide by negative 18. So we have x is less than or equal to, whoops, I divided by a negative. My symbol should have flipped over as soon as I divide by that negative. Should have gone in the other direction. All right? The two negatives on this side turn into a positive, and I wrote through that as 10 over 18. This we need to reduce, this fraction. You have a common factor of 2. 2 will go into 10 5 times, and 2 into 18 will go 9. You can also reduce on your calculator with your fraction button. So if we do 10 fraction button, 18, enter, 5 over 9. All right, they want interval notation for the answer. Right, this time we're bigger than or equal to, and you can draw a little graph if you want. 5/9 is your point, and bigger is over here. And this will be a bracket this time, or closed circle. And so your interval notation will be 5/9 to infinity. Has to be in that order. There we go. And it has to have a bracket. Bracket because of the equals underneath. All right. Next we'll do some formula problems. And these are where you solve for whichever variable they say. And this one, they put the p, so they're telling us solve for p. All right, so you go on the side of the one you want. We want p, so we don't want I. We're going to subtract I. And here you're going to have to do it after. Don't do it in front because that will mess up your signs. So it has to be s minus I equals p. And p is isolated, so that should be your answer. And it already had the p there. This next one is a more recent one, and but it is still a formula. So we'll go ahead and do it. So we have y equals 7 over 10 minus x. We're solving for x. So first thing is you have to get it out of the denominator. So we're going to have to multiply on both sides by the common denominator, 10 minus x. All right, so 10 minus x, you need parentheses there because it's the whole thing. It's more than one piece. Now we have 10 minus x times y. We want to get x and it's inside, so we will have to distribute. So we have 10y minus xy equals 7. Now, we're trying to isolate x. So we go on that side, and first we'll take off the 10y. So minus 10y minus 10y. And we have negative xy equals 7 minus 10y, right? And we want x. So I'm going to divide by a negative y. And with formulas, we usually leave it in one piece. If you're doing lines, you would do it under every piece. All right, so we got that off and we got that off. Now, because it is a multiple choice test, you might not have this particular form of the answer because they don't usually like a negative in the denominator. So if you're looking at the choices and you don't see this, an equivalent answer is to take this negative and distribute it through the numerator. So if we put this negative, if we took it up, put it outside and distribute it through the numerator, it would be negative 7 plus 10y over y equals x. So that's an equivalent answer. And we'll see what they want here. This is the same. They would have marked me correct for that. They don't care about the order as long as you have the signs right. But they don't usually like a negative in the denominator. So you would in multiple choice, they're not going to give you two that are correct. So you'll have to just look if your choice is not there. Work it yourself and look, but if yours is not there, then see, is there something else I could do to simplify? All right, let's see. We are down to, not quite that far. Let's see. Yes, we are. So 10, some graphing. All right. And graphing was actually kind of, well, this part of graphing was early in the course, right? Where you just have an equation and you complete the table, right? So basically with graphing, and they're not going to tell you how you have to choose. You're not going to have questions like where you would have to do all these things since it's multiple choice, like you would have to in here with all the steps. All right, so they're telling us you have to graph it this way, but on the real test you would just have this and say graph. And you would then pick your graph out of the choices. But we'll have to do it with what they say, and they are saying use this table, -2, 0, and 4. So plug those in. So if we plug in a -2, we get negative, whoops, this negative is out here. We're plugging in a -2 over 2, which this is going to give us a 1, and these two will make a positive 1 plus 4 will give us a 5. Right, then you start over and you put 0 in. Well, 0 over 2 gives you 0, and -0 is the same as 0. So this one gives you 4. Right, and if we put in a 4, four divided by 2 is 2. So we have -2 plus 4 will be a 2. So we want -2 with 5, 0 with 4, and 4 with 2. And then they want you to graph those. This is a line. And you hit the line tool. You can only use 2 points. So we'll do the -2, 5. And let's use the 0. So don't go over, go up 4. And we'll submit. It's going to mark me wrong for the table, but it gave me green on because I just looked at the answers. It gave me green on the graph. All right. And I am going to skip that one because it's the same kind. They're giving you values. You plug them in. You get the answer. Plot the points, draw the graph. So we'll skip that. This is another form. If I had this one to do myself and they didn't give me choices, I would probably choose zeros. 0 for X and 0 for Y. It will give you a fraction though, so then you would end up picking something else. So it's still going to be plug these in since they gave you the values, solve, draw the graph. Okay. So we did one like that, so we'll skip it. All right, and here they are giving us a multiple choice. So this is an example of a multiple choice. Let's do it. It's not a really nice one because of that decimal, but you know what you can do with that decimal? You could switch it to a fraction, and this would actually be a nice question to graph because 0.5 is the same as a half. So if we have y equals 1/2 x plus 1, this is actually your slope-intercept form, which is easy to graph from. The 1 will be your y-intercept. Your slope is 1/2. And you'd plot this first, and then you go up 1 and over 2. So let's draw a little graph ourselves. And with multiple choice, knowing in general how your slope looks will help you. This is a positive slope. A line with a positive slope goes up as it goes to the right. So it has to either be this choice or this choice. These two are negative slopes. So they're out. All right, so let's draw a little graph and see which of those other two are correct. So let's plot the 1 on the y-axis, and then it says go up 1 over 2. And this is our graph. When you're comparing things that look similar on the grids, one thing I look for is where is 0, 0 in relation to my graph, right? My graph is just a little bit above 0, 0, and that will actually clarify between your two choices because they look similar for slope, but it's going to be this top one because it's above 0, 0, and this one is below. So that's kind of how you tackle a multiple choice question when you're looking at somebody else's graphs. All right. This one is asking us domain and range, and it's been a long time since we did that, so it's good to review that. Okay, so domain is how it acts going across, and you just look at your leftmost point to your rightmost point when you're doing domain. So your leftmost point, and remember it's with the X is domain. Leftmost point of the graph is -1, and it has a solid circle, so you're touching it. Right? Rightmost point of the graph is 2, but you are not touching that because it has an open circle. Then they want us to do range. Range is your Y stuff. It's lowest to highest. And lowest will go first. Well, your lowest point on there, and you look at the Y-axis. The lowest Y is 0, right? And you are not touching it because of the open circle. So 0, the highest point of the graph is here, and you were going through that, so that is a 4. So it will get a bracket. So -1 to 2, and this one will be 0 to 4. So be careful with your parentheses and brackets there. Probably have another one of those we could practice here. Right, so we want to do the domain and the range from the picture. Right, so domain is how does it act, going left to right. Okay, this one goes forever to the left from there. So it's coming from -infinity. This is as far right as it's going. So we are coming from -infinity, which will always get a parentheses. We're going to -2. So you're looking at X for domain, and we are touching it. So a bracket. This will be domain. Range will be lowest to highest. Your lowest point on the graph, look at your Y-axis, will be 3. You are touching it because it's a solid circle, right? And this will actually, it'll go, as it goes over to the left, it actually will go up. So it keeps going up forever. Right. So good there. And here's one more. So we'll do it just because it's been a while and we haven't really used this skill anymore. It was in that section on functions where you were just kind of getting a little exposure to it. Next course, you will do a lot of work with functions. All right, so they want domain and range, right? And so this is when we're looking left to right. We're coming from -infinity, and the rightmost point is going to be 1. All right, so it is coming from -infinity. The rightmost point is 1, which you are touching. Right, your range, if you look at this bottom piece of the parabola, it goes down forever, and the top piece goes up forever. So it is going to be -infinity to infinity. No bounds on that. All right, and then it asks, is it a function? We used what's called a vertical line test. If you can draw a vertical line that will hit more than one point, then it is not a function. So this one is not a function by the vertical line test. So we will say no, but it's going to mark me wrong on the rest of it because I didn't answer it. I just looked at the answers. Okay. All right. This one asks us to evaluate a function, and it has a couple of kinds of questions that really were a little bit more 1105 questions. Those last two, you're not going to get a question like that. But the first ones are reasonable. To evaluate whether it's function notation or whether it's just a polynomial, you just substitute. right? So this one we're given a function. In this case, it is a polynomial. 6x squared plus 6x minus 8. And they want us to find f of 0. That means substitute 0 for all your x's. So I have 6 times 0 squared plus 6 times 0 minus 8. You do have to go with order of operations, so that would say exponents go first. So 0 squared is 0, and so we have 6 times 0. Well, 6 times 0 is 0, and 6 times 0 is 0, so we get minus 8 on this one. Right, and let's go down to the negative value because that's a place where people get caught more than the positive values. So you always want parentheses if you're plugging in a negative. And that sign is going to go to the power, so you need the parentheses. Also, I would use parentheses here when I'm plugging it in. Whoops. And then your last you just keep. All right. Order of operations says do this exponent first before you do multiplication. So negative 2 squared is negative 2 times negative 2. Gives you a positive 4 times 6. This will give us 24 minus 12 minus 8. And you can use your calculator. So 24 minus 12 minus 8 gives us 4. And that would be this one. Right. I'm going to leave these other two out because they really are 1105 questions. So you'll see them sometime. And there were some in the homework. It just, we won't do it because it's not going to be with the final. All right. These are more recent questions. So they are probably easier for you. And this has to do with the graphing. We have lines, and we want to know, eventually, are they parallel, perpendicular, or neither? To be parallel lines have the same slope. Perpendicular lines have slopes that are negative reciprocals, and they don't have to be either one, right? So this question is a lot of work. You wouldn't have one with this many situations in it, or you shouldn't, right? So first of all, you do have to know your formula for slope. It is change in y's over change in x's, and you're going to plug in your points. So I have 4, 7, and I have negative 4, 5, right? This will be x1, y1, x2, y2 into my formula. So I have 5 minus 7 over negative 4 minus 4, right? And this gives me negative 2 over negative 8. Clean it up. The two negatives give you positive 1/4. That is for line 1. Right, and slope for line 2, I'm going to put a subscript on it so we can tell. All right, it just uses the other points, same formula, so you have to know this formula. I'll circle it so you make sure you know that formula. So in it, I have 4, 3, and I have negative 4, 1. So this will be x1, y1, x2, y2. All right, so it'll be y2 minus y1, 1 minus 3 over x2, negative 4, minus x1, negative 4. All right, so we get negative 4 on the top over negative 8. Two negatives will give you positive, and 4 over 8 gives you 1/2. Whoops. So Mrs. H did something wrong. Right here, my math. 1 minus 3. And you should use your calculator if you're going to mess up like that. 1 minus 3 should give us negative 2. All right, so negative 2 on the top. The two negatives will give you positive, and you can reduce with your fraction button. And you could do the signs on there too, would be fine. Right, so my slopes are the same. That means these lines are parallel. All right, so it's going to be this choice. And it's going to, there we go. It's going to mark the rest of that wrong, but that one's okay. Because I didn't fill them in. All right. Some more graphing questions. So, 19. All right, find the equation of the line. So this is also a recent question. It has slopes equals 6, so m equals 6. It goes through this point, 10, 62. Write your equation of the line in this form, which is called slope-intercept form, right? And we have what we need. We have 1 point and we have a slope. You also need to make sure you know this formula. It's called the point-slope formula, and it's y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. And you plug your point into x1, y1. You keep the general x and y here. So we have y minus 62 equals 6 times x minus 10. Right? That is plugging in, and I'm going to circle this formula. You may need to make sure you know that formula. All right, so, and you might make yourself, as you study for this final, make yourself an index card or a sheet of paper that's your formulas. You can't have it with the test, but you can look at it as you're studying to help you learn to memorize it. You know, and you can go through it a few times to see if you know it. All right, so we have to clean it up and isolate the y for what they want, which is slope-intercept form. So we have 6, and that is not a y, that is an x. Minus 60, y minus 62 equals, and we need to move the 62. So we'll add a 62. That will give us y equals 6x plus 2, and that should be done. All right. This one you'll just have to clear it up. We just wrote one in slope-intercept form. We can do this one. You'll have to clear the fraction out. So we have m equals 1/3. We have 6 negative 5. So it doesn't specify, does it want standard form or does it want slope-intercept form? It does not want point-slope form, I don't think. So you start with point-slope form. Y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. Right? So it's y minus, be careful here, it's a negative 5. Slope of 1/3, x minus 6. Okay. This will make plus. The next step here, I would clear the fraction. And let's see which form they want. Okay, they're going to accept either form. Okay, and they already have the y there. So since they had the y there, that was actually a clue. They don't want standard form. So it would have accepted, let's see. Oh, really? With the parentheses? I wouldn't have if it was on paper. Okay, so from here, I would clear the fraction personally. So I would multiply 3 by 3 to get this fraction out of here, because I don't like to have to add or subtract fractions and get a common denominator. When you distribute 1, it's not going to change anything, right? And then I would subtract the 15. So you have 3y equals x, and this is a minus 21. And then divide by 3. With lines, we divide under each piece because we can clean those up. And this gives us y equals, you need to pull your coefficient away from the x a little bit. So this will be 1/3 x, and this will be minus 7. That's the cleanest form of that. They already had the y. Now you won't have that kind of issue on the test because it is multiple choice. So that will help. But good, we have the right answer. So one more graphing, then we'll switch topics. So 21. They want us just to change the form here and go to standard form. So you need to remember that standard form is ax plus by equals c. Your x and y on the same side, constant on the other side. So I am going to keep the x on this side. I'm going to move the y. So 10x minus y equals -9. And that is standard form. So let's see if they're happy with that. Oh, 1y, okay, equals. Oh, they divided out the, I copied wrong to begin with, okay? It was originally a -10 and I copied a +10. So this is right for the problem I did. I didn't actually do the problem that was there. That's okay, we're not going to redo it. All right, we'll keep going a little bit more. We won't go past 30. There's 60 questions here. We'll leave the others for next time. That kind of moved us on up. We're still in that first testing chapter. Except some of that graphing was at the end and the equation of the line was at the end. Right. You have to remember your exponent rules here. And here you have a power to a power. 2/5 to the 4/7, and your rule is keep the base and multiply. So this is x, and here we're going to do 2/5 times 4/7, and I would do those in the calculator. So if you have a fraction button, you can use it. If you don't, you can use divide for your fractions, but keep the whole fraction in parentheses. So with the fraction button, I'll do 2 fraction button 5, right, times 4 fraction button 7, enter 8/35. So you had to know that they multiply, power to a power, keep the base and multiply. All right. Write the simplified expression with a positive exponent. Okay, we're good there. Make sure your variable matches that in the equation. So x to the 8/35. All right, and so this is actually out of the radical section, even though it's doing the exponents. It's that one that had the fractional exponents. And remember to switch it to a radical, the denominator is the index. So we're going to have a 35 here. we're going to have x here. And you have a choice. You can put the 8 inside or you can put it outside the whole thing. If it won't simplify there, I would put the 8 inside. I would always look first because it might simplify. So, there you go, radical form. Right. So this is another one out of that same section, but it also reviews your exponent rules. Okay, so we have something with fractional exponents here. And your rule is keep the base and subtract the exponents. Right? So you had to remember the fraction stuff. You can go to your calculator or you can probably do this one by hand. Right? To add or subtract, you have to have a common denominator, which we have. You keep it and you combine the numerator and it's done and it doesn't reduce. So x to the 1/5. All right, here's another one to review. We'll get a new page. Also has exponent rules, but it came out of the radical section. X to the 1/3 times x to the 1/4. And these are straight across from each other. When they're straight across from each other, the rule is keep the base and add. And I usually write out my little rule here. So I'm going to do 1/3 plus 1/4. And this is a little bit of work if you're going to do it by hand because you have to get the common denominator. So you do work on each one. I am going to just do it on the calculator. Your common denominator is going to be a 12. But we can do 1 fraction button, 3, plus 1 fraction button, 4, enter. We get 7/12. Good. All right, some more radical stuff. And these are the same kind, so I'll just do one of them. You are adding or subtracting radicals, and they have to be what's called like radicals, which means your piece under the radical has to be the same, and they have to be the same index. Index is the root. All of these are square roots, so that part's okay, and these are all square roots. So we'll just do 25. Let me write it first. -4 times square root of 50 plus 5 times square root of 108 plus 2 times square root of 98 minus 2 square root of 3. All right, we're going to have to simplify each of these, and that's another skill that you would need. So I taught it to you with primes. So break down, you have 5, and this is 2 times 5. So we're doing square root. So if you get 2 copies of something, it has to go outside. So 1 copy will go outside for those 5. So we have -4 times 5 will give us -20. The 2 has to stay inside times the square root of 2. Then we'll do it on the next one, 108. So this is a hard number for me. I don't know what gives 108, but I know it's even, so I know there's a 2 in it. So 108 divided by 2 gives 54. So 2 times 54. 2 is prime. 54, I think of 9 times 6. If you didn't know that, you could still go with 2 again because it's even. All right, and I just bring the one that's done down so I don't lose it. All right, and 9 is 3 times 3, and 6 is 2 times 3. All right, so we're doing square root. So groups of 2, there's a group. So 1, 2 is going out. Don't lose this 5 up here. So 5 times the 2, you also have to take out a 3. right? That ends up giving us 5 times 6, which is 30 on the outside, and a 3 left on the inside. Right, 98, I would start with 2 because I don't know what goes in it. So 98 divided by 2, 49, and that's good because I know 49. 49 is 7 times 7, and that is my square. 1 7's going out, it's going to multiply by the 2 that's out there. So you got 2 times 7 on the outside is 14, and this 2 is left, right? This 3 is prime, so it's not going to do anything else. Right, so the radicals that can go together, these with the square root of 2 can go together, and your math is on these, it's like a coefficient. So negative 20 plus 14 will give us a negative 6 times the square root of 2, and the square roots of 3 will go together, right? And so it'll be 30 minus 2 is 28 times the square root of 3. So that one gave us a good workout. Negative 6 square root of 2 plus 28 square root of 3. Next one will be the same kind, so I will skip it. Right, and 27. This is a FOIL problem, but it has a bunch of radicals there, so we'll have to be careful. 3 times the square root of 5 plus 4 times the square root of 6, and then you're doing it times 3 square root of 5 minus 4 square root of 6. So we're going to do FOIL. Basically, things outside the radicals multiply, things underneath the radical multiplies. When you do the same radical times itself, same square root times itself, it removes the radical. So square root of 5 times square root of 5 is going to be just 5. You can take that shortcut. All right, so first terms, this is a first, and this is a first. 3 times 3 is 9. And square root of 5 times square root of 5 removes the radical. Or you can multiply it as 25, take the square root as 5. All right, so the first terms gave me 45. Okay. Next we go outside. Right, and pieces outside multiply. So 3 times negative 4 is a negative 12. And things underneath multiply. Square root of 30. That is not going to break down actually because it has a 5 and a 2 and a 3. So we'll just bring it down. Inside is going to give us 12 on the outside, and this one's positive, times the square root of 30. Those multiply. Right, and then last. This one's last, this one's last. 4 times negative 4 is a negative 16. Square root of 6 times square root of 6 takes the radical off. So this will be a minus 16 times, whoops, not divide, times 6, 96. Right, and then you're going to put the pieces together. You'll notice that this is minus 12 square root of 30 plus 12 square root of 30. They are canceling. So what we have left is 45 minus 96 is negative 51. Good. These were called conjugates. When you have the same pieces in the binomials with opposite signs, the outside and inside will cancel. That's a special thing there. All right, let's keep going and see if we can finish these radicals. All right, so 28. This will just be a distribution. So on the first one, this number is times a 1 on the outside. So it is negative 6 square root of 11. Nothing else to do. The second one, it'll be 7 times 1 will be 7 on the outside. Square root of 11 times square root of 11 will take the radical off and give you 11. So it will be negative 6 square root of 11 plus 77. Good. All right, here is another FOIL. So square root of x plus 5 times square root of x plus 7. This one is not conjugates. So do your first terms, and you're doing square root of x times square root of x. The radical will come off. Outside, the 7 will go times a 1 there, and you'll keep the square root of x. This one will do the same. 5 times a 1 out in front, square root of x. And last, 5 times 7 is 35. These two will go together. So we have x plus 7 plus 5. Your math is outside. Plus 12 times the square root of x plus 35. Nothing else you can do on that one. All right, and we'll do one more here. This will get us halfway. Or maybe we'll get through the eyes. We'll see. All right. So this is also a FOIL, and it has the eyes. Remember, I is square root of negative 1. And basically, when you're doing the simplifying and stuff with it, you just treat it like an x. But if you get I squared, you change it back to negative 1. It goes back to a real number. So let's do a FOIL here. First term, 7 times 8 is 56. Outside, so we have 7 times 12. So we get 84i, and that was positive. Inside, we're going to get minus 48i. And last, we're going to get minus 12 times 6. Minus 72, but notice here you're getting I times I, which gives you I squared. I squared is a negative 1 times a negative 72. This gives you a plus 72. All right, so we have 56 plus 72. This gives us 128. And your I terms can go together. 84 minus 48. So this is a plus 36i. Good. All right, we'll do one more of those. Actually, let's just leave that in case different people are here next time and they might like to hear about, remember about the eyes. So we'll stop there. Please try to do this all on your own, this review, and then we'll pick up next time at question 31 and get ready for your final. If anybody finishes earlier and you're ready to take your final, you can take it at any time. You did have 2 sections of homework. I went over there some last time. 2 sections of homework left before you get to the final. But when you get ready, if you want to take the final, you don't have to wait till the last day. All right, I'm going to stop there. You guys have an awesome day and a very happy Thanksgiving.